If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from Elo. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got a great podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Curtis Rogers, who does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. We're going to be checking in on how the Seattle Mariners are faring out there in the AL West, how y'all deciphers the AL West, and just some of the things that are standing out to them in general in this baseball season. So we're going to have a great chat there in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. Over at EdgeBoost, they're making sure that bettors are able to access their funds for all their gambling-related transactions 24/7, 365. You earn cashback rewards when you utilize EdgeBoost, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Sunday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Colorado Rockies continue to be absolutely terrible. We saw them win a series against the Miami Marlins, and as Rob Schneider once said on The Waterboy, oh no, we suck again. 13-5, they fall to the New York Mets. They get completely swept, and they have now played 65 games thus far this season, and they have lost 40 of them by multiple runs. As for the New York Mets, had a pair of guys get a pair of homers. Pete Alonso, 16th and 17th home runs of the season. Jeff McNeil, 5th and 6th home runs of the season. You had from there, Brett Baty get a 7th home run season, and Mr. Alvarez, Francisco Alvarez, his 2nd home run of the campaign. As for Colorado, giving up a pair of those bombs was Chase Solander. In 3 innings, gave up 5 runs. You had 3 runs given up in an inning by Juan Mejia. You had 2 scoreless innings from Victor Vodnik, but Seth Alverson, 2 runs given up in his inning of work. Tyler Kinley, 2 runs given up in his inning of work. Zach Ognos gave up a run in his inning of work, and for the New York Mets, Tyler McGill gets a W, gives up 2 runs in 5 innings, and Paul Blackburn in super long relief, he gets a 4-inning save, giving up 3 runs over the course of 4 innings. Don't see that very often, and you don't see the Tampa Bay Rays get held down by a bullpen of the Miami Marlins too often, but they still find a way to persevere. 3-2, the final is for the Miami Marlins. This honestly wasn't a terrible bullpen game. Anthony Veziano, 2 scoreless innings. Ronnie Enriquez, Kate Gibson both giving a scoreless inning, but Valentin Belozo pitched like a bozo, giving up 3 runs over the course of 3 1/3 innings, including a home run to Yandy Diaz, his 9th home run of the season. Calvin Fauché, pair of outside the bullpen, and for the Miami Marlins, not a lot doing in this one. You had Kevin Kelly, Mason Montgomery combined for a scoreless inning. Edwin, you said it, 2 scoreless innings, and Drew Rasmussen, 2 runs allowed over the course of his 6 innings to be able to get that one to the window. Also being able to get to the window, the Pirates. Paul Skeens gets a no decision, but the Pirates do get a 2-1 win, and for the Pittsburgh Pirates, this has been a very rough offensive team thus far this season. 26 overs, 37 unders, and 3 pushes. And for the Phillies, Christopher Sanchez was fine. 2 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings. Ryan Kerkering, a scoreless inning, but they just weren't able to get to Skeen. 7 2/3 innings. He allowed 1 unearned run, and from there, you had 4 outside the bullpen from Braxton Ashcraft to be able to get that one to the window. For the Milwaukee Brewers, they had a rough go of it against the San Diego Padres. 1-0, they fall there, and for the Milwaukee Brewers, I believe that they stranded 27 men on base in this series and generated a combined 4 runs. Freddie Peralta, 6 scoreless innings. Rob Zanofsky, he gives up a home run in his inning of work to Manny Machado, 10th home run of the season. You had Aaron Ashby complete 2 scoreless innings, but they couldn't get to anyone for the San Diego Padres. As Yuki Matsui, Sean Rhodes both give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Wandy Peralta and out of the bullpen, Jason Adam, Robert Suarez both provide a scoreless inning, and Ryan Burgett in his 2nd career start allows 4 walks but 5 1/3 innings scoreless to be able to get that one in. For the Texas Rangers, they continue to be by far your best under team in all of baseball. How about 20 overs, 44 unders, and a push? 4-2, they're able to take it to the Washington Nationals. Says for Texas, Jake Berger gets his 9th home run season off of Cole Henry, and then you had Evan Carter get a 2nd home run season. That comes off of the starter and Trevor Williams. Williams gives up 3 runs to which were earned in 4 1/3 innings. Brad Lord, Cole Henry, they both go for an inning, and Henry gives up that solo home run. You had Jose Ferrer give up 5 outside the bullpen scoreless, and Andrew Chafin, a scoreless inning. Alex Call, 2nd home run season, and 2nd home run in the last 7 days. That comes off of Jacob Latz, who actually lent some decent length. 2 runs allowed over the course of 3 1/3 innings. From there, Hobie Milner, 2 scoreless innings. Sean Armstrong, Robert Garcia mix and match for 2 scoreless innings, and Jacob Webb, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. For the Chicago Cubs, they are unable to persevere as they fall to the Detroit Tigers by a count of 4-0. As for the Cubs, Cade Horton, here's a who, gives up 4 runs in 5 innings. From there, Ryan Brazier, a scoreless inning. Chris Flexen, 2 scoreless innings. But for Detroit, Jack Flaherty was on it in this one. 9 punch-outs and 6 scoreless innings. Brendan Ennefe, Tommy Canley, Will Vest from there, all able to supply scoreless innings. For the Chicago White Sox, they gave you an over. You haven't seen too many of those as far this season. Same for the Kansas City Royals. Royals, by the way, one of your top under teams in all baseball. 25 overs, 39 unders, and a push. But the Royals get a 7-5 win over the Chicago White Sox as Michael Lorenzen, 2 runs allowed over the course of his 6 innings of work, did allow a home run to Miguel Vargas, his 9th home run of the season. From there, Anel Zerpa, John Schreiber, both give you a scoreless inning. Yeah, Trevor Richards give up 3 runs and he didn't get an out. Carlos Aceves has to come in for the save. He was able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Kansas City Royals, pair of bombs, Bobby Witt Jr., 8th home run season off of Bryce Wilson, and Mike Vasil gives one up to Mr. Salvador Perez, his 5th home run season. Vasil's been a bright spot for the team. Does give up 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings. From there, you had 1 run given up in 3 innings by Tyler Alexander. Jordan Leisure goes for a pair of outs out of the bullpen. He gives up a run, and then Bryce Wilson, 3 runs allowed in 2 innings. So not savory there for the White Sox. This was also not so savory for the LA Angels. They fall to the Seattle Mariners by a count of 3-2. And for Seattle, they went 0-10 with men in scoring position in the first 4 innings and still got the win. As for George Kirby, 14 punch-outs, gives up 2 runs over the course of 7 innings, did allow a home run to Taylor Ward, 18th home run of the season. Lone mistake that you make, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, both give a scoreless inning for Seattle. They did a solid job of racking up hits on Tyler Anderson, who he's lucky the damage wasn't worse. 8 hits allowed in 4 2/3 innings, allows 3 runs. From there, Hunter Strickland, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Jose Fermin, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. And Brock and Rolberg was able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless. The Athletics, after going 1-20 in a stretch, they have now won 4 straight games. 5-1 the final. That just goes to show how crazy baseball is. Tomoyuki Sugano gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 4 1/3 innings. From there, you had Yanir Cano. Don't you know he gave you a scoreless inning? Scott Blewett, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Brian Baker allows a solo home run in his inning of work to Max Muncy, the other Max Muncy, 3rd home run of the campaign for Jacob Lopez. A solid start, 1 unearned run given up in 4 innings. Sean Newcomb, 3 scoreless innings. Grant Ullman, TJ McFarland combined for a scoreless inning, and Mason Miller was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. You had yourself, by the way, for the Sacramento A's, they're currently your top over team in all of baseball. 37 overs, 25 unders, and 5 pushes. And you also had the San Francisco Giants persevere against the Atlanta Braves. 4-3 the final in this one, and the Braves have just been absolutely miserable on the road this year. They are 10-23 on the road, so yeah, that's not great to say the least. Spencer Strider was a little bit better in this one. He does allow 3 earned runs, 4 runs in total over the course of 6 innings, but rounding into a little bit of form, Rafael Montero, Anya de los Santos, the Dodd father, Dylan Dodd, combined for 2 scoreless innings, and the San Francisco Giants' Landon Roop does give up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, but this bullpen of the Giants is number 1 in the big leagues by about a half a run with regards to ERA. Camilo Duvall, Randy Rodriguez, Ryan Walker, they're all able to supply a scoreless inning. Also being able to supply a ton of scoreless innings. How about the Cleveland Guardians being able to get the job done against the Houston Astros? This by a count of 4-2. As for Houston, you had Brandon Walter give up just 2 runs in 6 innings. Pretty solid start. He did allow a home run to Bo Naylor, 8th home run of the season. From there, Stephen Oker gives up 2 runs in an inning. Caleb Burt, a scoreless inning of his own. And for the Cleveland Guardians, Tanner Bybee gives up 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Cade Smith, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Emmanuel Clase is able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Minnesota Twins, they get by against the Toronto Blue Jays. This by a count of 6-3. As for the Jays, Bowden Francis continues to be awful. 4 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs. As he gave one up to Christian Vasquez, his 2nd home run of the season, and Brooks Lee, his 5th. Joe Ryan gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 5 innings. And then from there, the bullpen was great. Yuan Dodon, Griffin Jacks, Cole Sands, Brock and Roll Stewart. They're all able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Blue Jays, bullpen wasn't too bad. You had Paxton Schultz give you a scoreless inning. Brandon Fisher, 2 scoreless innings. Eric Swanson, a pair of outs out of the bullpen. And Mace Jason Fluharty does give up 2 runs over the course of his inning of work, but damage by then it had certainly been done. And the LA Dodgers were able to do some damage to the St. Louis Cardinals. 7-3 the final in this one. As for the LA Dodgers, you had Mookie Betts go deep off of the King, John King, his 9th home run season. King allows that home run in his inning of work. Michael McGreevy fills 6 innings, but he does give up 4 runs along the way, and Matt Svenson gives up 2 runs in his 2 innings of work. As for the LA Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw looked much better in this one. 1 run allowed in 5 innings, 7 strikeouts. That's a guy that we all know and love. From there, Kirby Yates not out of the bullpen scoreless. Jack Dreyer gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, allows a run, and Lou Trevino gives up a run in an inning, but Tanner Scott and welcome back Michael Kopech, they both give you a scoreless inning. Also being able to get a lot of scoreless innings, the Cincinnati Reds, they sweep the Arizona Diamondbacks, this by a count of 4-2, as for the Snakes, Zach Allen, 4 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings, including 3 bombs. You had Jose Trevino get his 4th home run season, Matt McClain his 7th, and Christian Encarnacion Strand his 5th. From there, you did have Jalen Beeks give you not out of the bullpen scoreless, and it was a scoreless inning out of Kyle Bacchus, his MLB debut for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And after you did have Brady Singer give up a pair of runs early on, he settled down, giving up 2 runs in 5 innings. Did allow a bomb in this run as and Eugenio Suarez gets his 18th home run of the season, but you had Taylor Rogers fill 2 scoreless innings. Tony Santina and Scott Barlow, they're both able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And then to close out the night, the Boston Red Sox get the job done 11-7 over the New York Yankees as Carlos Rodon, 5 runs allowed in 5 innings, gives up a pair of home runs as Christian Campbell gets his 6th home run season, Carlos Narvaez his 6th, and then you had Trevor Story go deep off of Jonathan Loaiza for his 8th home run season. Loaiza to Abraham Toro, 4th home run of the season, and then Rafael Devers, 14th home run of the campaign. That comes out Brent Hedrick as Yankees just did not have it in this one. Rodon, 5 runs allowed in 5 innings, and then Fernando Cruz, 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Tim Millen out of the bullpen scoreless, but Jonathan Loaiza, Brent Hedrick both give up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Ian Hamilton does give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and for Hunter Dobbins, he does give up a pair of home runs himself, 3 runs allowed in 5 innings as Aaron Judge does go deep twice, 22nd and 23rd home runs of the campaign to go deep off of Robert Stock in the 9th inning, who he gave up a pair of runs. You also had DJ LeMay who go deep off of Dobbins for his 2nd home run season. Brendan Bernardino gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, but you had Zach Kelly, Greg Weissert piecemeal together a scoreless inning, Justin Wilson a scoreless inning, and then you had Justin Wilson give you an out of the bullpen scoreless as well. If you're taking a look at what we're getting trend-wise in Major League Baseball right now, it has been very much an underwhelming season, and if you look over the last 7 days, it has still been a very nice binge of unders, as the under over the last 7 days, 52 of them to 40 overs, 56.5% hit rate to the under, and favorites, they're hitting at a less than 50% clip, 46 and 48 on the money line. Overall for the season, hitting at 57.5%, 555 and 410. Meanwhile, the under is hitting at 53.6% for the season, 500 unders to 432 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Sunday. Now, let's take a look at the American League West race. Let's take a look at the Seattle Mariners, and so much more with our good friend Curtis Rogers, who does pre- and post-game hosting for 710 Seattle Sports, the official flagship station of the Seattle Mariners. On the flip side, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Peace and Family Podcast.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Peace and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Curtis Rogers aboard. He does such amazing work taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. He's a pre- and post-game host for the Seattle Mariners over there on their official flagship station, 710 Seattle Sports. He covers really all things out there in the Pacific Northwest. And you're able to follow him on Twitter, /X, and Instagram at A Kid From Kent all together. And Curtis, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, always happy to hop on with you. And yeah, we're nearing the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs, so NBA Finals. So everybody's attention starting to draw towards Major League Baseball. And it's been a wild first half so far. We're about a month away from the All-Star break. It's a good time to get in, and excited to talk about it with you as always.
Oh, absolutely. And we have had ourselves a lot of intrigue with regards to the AL West. And For the Seattle Mariners, they find themselves at 33-31. George Kirby had 14 strikeouts on Sunday. But I mean, how do you take a look at this Mariners team, one where it's been a little bit up and down with them, with having a big dumper really being able to lead the way?
Yeah, Cal Raleigh has been outstanding. If it weren't for Aaron Judge in the American League, he's probably the runaway MVP. Probably the MVP if he were playing in the National League right now, but that's just kind of how the breaks have gone with anybody trying to state their case against Aaron Judge, especially over the last couple of years. But you hate to think about what this Mariners team would look like without the contributions of Cal Raleigh. You mentioned just a couple of games above 500. It has not gone their way in the month of May and to start June. They find themselves 2.5 back of the Astros as of Sunday. And it's really been the offense going quiet. Jorge Polanco has cooled off majorly from his incredible month of April, only has 1 home run since that month of April. Guys like J.P. Crawford and Julio, they have been contributing nicely since the month of April. It hasn't just been Cal Raleigh. The problem is outside of those 3 guys, it has been really, really bare bones in terms of offensive production. The Mariners need a lot out of Randy Arozarena, and they're just not getting it right now. They did make the move to call up Cole Young, one of their top prospects, about a week ago to play second base every day. He only has 3 hits in the week that he's been up in the big league, so there's probably going to be an adjustment period for that. So the offense really searching for answers right now, and the pitching staff just hasn't been nearly as good as I think everybody had anticipated it being. Sunday's result notwithstanding, because George Kirby was absolutely fantastic. He looked like the George Kirby of old, but it hasn't been a smooth sailing year for Luis Castillo. It hasn't been that way for Bryce Miller either, 2 guys who I think a lot of people were anticipating big things from. Logan Gilbert's been hurt. George Kirby's been hurt. A lot of question marks on the pitching staff. Outside of JP, Julio, and Cal Raleigh, it really has not been easy to predict this season so far for the Mariners.
Yeah, it certainly has been interesting, and I do think that it's interesting to take a look at as well who might be the solution for the Seattle Mariners with regards to pitching, because George Kirby was able to step up, but you mentioned it with Bryce Miller, it's been a little bit rough for them. And how much do you think that just the injuries have been able to rack up, and these guys have almost been forced to the big leagues a little bit too soon? Because with George Kirby, one thing that I noticed is that his minor league numbers were not good, and I think that the same was true for Bryce Miller as well. With just so many injuries, I feel like they just really piled up.
Yeah, you do kind of need an adjustment period coming off of the injured list, especially if you do take some rehab starts. In George Kirby's case, it was him just simply not having a spring training to get ready. It was him having to go really from, getting hurt in March to sitting out all of April to rehabbing in May, and not just rehabbing, but getting back to full strength and then rehabbing after that. So he's obviously behind schedule. It took him 4 starts to really get his legs underneath him. And obviously he was phenomenal. You mentioned the 14 strikeouts on Sunday. That's beyond, I think, the expectations of George Kirby. But Bryce Miller is another interesting case study, like you mentioned. He has not really looked the part this season. He has dealt with some arm issues. It sounds like maybe there's some loose bodies in that right arm. He's trying to search for answers right now. I kind of wonder if maybe his IL stint wasn't long enough. He only spent the 15-day, the duration of the 15-day IL, and then didn't have a rehab start after that. His first start back, he was pumping 95, 96 in the first inning, but by the time he was in the 4th inning, his velocity was back down to about 92, 93, which, those couple miles per hour can mean the difference between, a strikeout and you serving up a 450-foot bomb. So hopefully Bryce Miller, that arm just continues to heal up. I mean, you kind of wonder, maybe the end game with that is putting Bryce Miller back on the IL, bringing Logan Evans up, because if you remember, Greg, Logan Evans last started at the big league level, 8 innings, just 4 hits allowed. He only needed like 89 pitches to get through those 8 innings, was this close to throwing a Maddox, yet they sent him down to make room for Bryce Miller. I don't know if that was the right move, because he was really getting into his zone and really looked like a nice piece for the Mariners. But always good to have rotation depth, and especially in a season like this with so many pitchers hitting the IL, Mariners are going to need all that depth they can get over the season's final months.
Yep, no question about it. And I do think that that is going to be such an interesting case study for the Seattle Mariners, where we thought that the strength for them was going to be the pitching. Right now, it has actually been the offense, and it's almost been the opposite of a lot of these AL West teams and these American League teams in general. Like the AL Central has been all pitching. It has been no offense whatsoever. Now with the AL West, I think that's interesting because the Astros have had solid pitching, but the offense seems to have tapered off a little bit. The Rangers have no offense whatsoever right now, and I have no idea what's happened there. But how do you take a look at this AL West landscape? One where we saw the Oakland A's, or I should say the Sacramento A's, go on a 1-20 run. Yes, 1 win and 20 losses before they now sweep the Baltimore Orioles. And yeah, things have been very wild or crazy for the Angels, to say the least, too.
Yeah, this American League West, I mean, it's starting to look like the Astros are showing themselves to be the team to have the most to reckon with. But, like, again, they got up to such a slow start this season. You mentioned their offense is nowhere near what it used to be. Now, their pitching has looked really good with Hunter Brown leading the charge. I mean, there's a chance he starts for the American League in the All-Star game. I think that nod will probably go to Tarek Skubal. But right now, he's very much in the discussion for that. Now, if Houston can get a healthy Yordan Alvarez back in the season's second half, I mean, watch out. That is going to be the biggest trade deadline pickup any team could make. We don't know what his status is going to be. He did suffer that little bit of a setback in his return, dealing with a small fracture in that finger. We don't quite know just how long he'll be out in addition to the time that he's already missed. Ronel Blanco hits the IL. He's out for the season. So they've definitely dealt with their fair share of injuries too. But, I mean, it's the Astros, right? Like, you can't ever count them out. Just when you think that they are dead, they make the American League Championship Series. Last year when they didn't make the ALCS, it was a stunner, even though they ended up losing to a Tigers team that turned out to be, sort of foreshadowing how good they're going to be this season. Yeah, in the American League West right now, I think it is going to end up being a two-horse race between Houston and Seattle. I just don't see it from Texas this season. I don't see it from the Angels. I thought maybe the A's were going to put up a little bit more of a fight, but you mentioned them just falling off an absolute cliff. Their stadium is a dump. Carlos Correa of the Twins talking about how he didn't want to play there because he didn't want to risk 2 months of his season playing in 3 games in Sacramento Stadium because of how bad the batter's box is. Maybe next year it'll be in the cards for the A's, but not now. But yeah, I just don't really see it from a lot of teams in the AL West right now. Somebody's going to have to win. Somebody will have to win. That is a guarantee about this. But right now, nobody's really kind of raising their hand and saying, I'll do it.
Yeah, it's been really interesting just with that division. And I just feel like the entirety of the American League is a little bit of a hodgepodge right now as well. As Curtis Rogers, who does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports, is joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, because the Royals right now have a winning record, but they have no semblance of offense whatsoever. You've got a bunch in the Minnesota Twins that have been able to surge a little bit recently, but I don't know what to make out of them right now. The Tigers actually do look like that top team in the American League. I just keep going back to them, and I keep being impressed, but I just take a look all around the American League at teams not named the Tigers and the Yankees, and I've got question marks with every one of them. And I even have question marks with the Yankees with Luke Weaver being out too.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge blow. He's one of the best closers in all of baseball, and the final 3 outs are the most important outs. It is vital to have somebody at the back end of games to close things down and get you those wins. And, look, the Yankees have the most talent, I think, of any team in the American League, but you'd think they would have a bigger lead in their division. Just 5 games up on Tampa and Toronto. Toronto, Greg, is a team that I'm kind of eyeballing right now. They've been pretty hot. They did lose on Sunday, but they won 9 of their last 11. They're 35-30 right now. They're a team that has obviously got the talent. They're a team that has guys that can absolutely mash if they get hot. Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, George Springer. I mean, the names. It's nobody that is unfamiliar. And I think Bo Bichette, too, him really coming on as of late, has the same amount of home runs as Vlad Guerrero Jr. Bichette, for whatever reason, his power completely deserted him over the last year plus, but it's back right now. Really good sight to see if you're a Blue Jays fan. I kind of wonder if maybe he is an extension candidate or if he is going to be potentially moved at the trade deadline now. If the Blue Jays are competitive, I don't think Bo Bichette gets moved at the trade deadline, but it's good to see that, in the American League East, the Rays are being competitive. The Blue Jays are being competitive. They're right there kind of with the Yankees. The Red Sox, to me, are one of the biggest disappointments in all of baseball right now. What the heck are they doing with Roman Anthony still down in AAA? I mean, come on now. There's nothing else that kid could prove in AAA. Christian Campbell has been horrible. He's been horrible with the bat really since he had that blistering start in the month of April. Do a 1-for-1 swap of those two guys right now.
Trevor's Story is useless right now.
Yeah, exactly. So right now, I think the Red Sox only have themselves to blame for the season that they've gotten off to, because they've got scads of talent, but just have not been able to put it together.
Nope, they need Alex Bregman back. They need Anthony up at the big league level, and Rafael Devers. He's picking it up with the bat. He's certainly not picking it up with the glove, though, as well. So that's been a fascinating watch, to say the least. And I think that it's also going to be really interesting to see what you're going to be front and center for this week, with it being the Seattle Mariners going on the road, taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And they're another team that's been a big disappointment. They get swept by the Cincinnati Reds. They come into this series against Seattle in less than tremendous form. How do you take a look at the Diamondbacks? And I think that they deserve to be on that list of biggest disappointments in baseball this year.
Agree. Their crown jewel of the offseason, Corbin Burns, signing that $200+ million deal, doesn't even make it through the first season before he needs Tommy John surgery. And the Diamondbacks, too, are a team that doesn't necessarily throw around a lot of money. They make a move like that, and it backfires in that way. I mean, that's going to alter a lot of offseason plans, not just for this upcoming offseason, but for off seasons after that. They've got a lot of young talent on that ball club, yes. I kind of wonder if Jordan Lawler is somebody that's going to get called back up soon. But the Diamondbacks, to me, Greg, are a team that's kind of in the same boat as maybe the Orioles, where they've got a lot of talent, but are probably going to be in this weird spot of kind of forced to sell at the deadline. One name that I would be watching if I were a team in need of offense is Gino Suarez, a guy who hit 4 home runs in a game earlier this season. That, to me, is a prime candidate to get moved at the trade deadline. He doesn't seem like he'd be an extension candidate. And, I mean, gosh, another guy with the Diamondbacks who has been horrendous over his last couple of starts is Brandon Pfaadt. I mean, holy cow.
He had a start where everyone got a hit.
He threw an all-hitter. It was the opposite of a no-hitter. He threw an all-hitter.
No outer.
It was so bad. And then his next start after that, he didn't last very long either. So he's just been terrible. Zach Gallen, who has been one of the best pitchers in the National League over the last couple of years, he hasn't been good this season. Merrill Kelly, really the only guy that you can bank on in that starting rotation right now. That has been a huge, huge disappointment for that Diamondbacks team. Glad to see Corbin Carroll back doing his thing, especially after a down season last year. Geraldo Perdomo and Ketel Marte. I mean, that might be the best middle infield in the National League. You have one of the best center fielders, one of the best middle infields. Like, what are you doing below 500 at this point of the season? The Diamondbacks definitely a big disappointment.
Yeah, no question about it. That has been rough, and we'll see if the Seattle Mariners can take advantage and get some wins in Arizona over this week. As joining me on the show, we do have Curtis Rogers, who does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports. And is there any teams that you have your eye on right now that you're just wanting to see a little bit more from them? Maybe you're just on the fringe. Maybe you're starting to buy in. Maybe it's just a little bit of a wait-and-see mode with them. Is there just a team in general that you're very intrigued by what they show over the next few weeks?
Yeah, one team that I'm pretty intrigued by is Kansas City, especially after calling up Jack Caglione. I mean, that's a big bat to add to that lineup. Also, I mean, Kansas City has, I think, disappointed, especially after the year that they had last year, making the playoffs in the way that they did. Caglione had that 4-for-4 game, too, so he's looking like it's going to be a quick adjustment to the big league level for him. You love to see that, especially a guy who's just dripping with talent right now. But Bobby Witt Jr., I mean, it's weird to say. He's put up 3.2 WAR, but it almost kind of feels like he's left a little bit on the table right now with just the 8 home runs. But, I mean, he's still probably going to be starting the All-Star game for the American League. Salvador Perez, boy, I mean, it has been a tough go of it for him this season with the bat. He has not looked like Salvador Perez, has looked over the course of his career. So I just think right now the Royals are a team that I'm looking at right now and saying they need to be better than what they are, especially if they want to compete for one of those wild card spots in the American League. They don't want to get the division too far out in front of them, because the Tigers, they're obviously a good team. Cleveland, I think, can be a good team, even though the run differential is below even right now. The Twins have played much better baseball in May and June compared to what they did in the month of April. So the Royals just needing to get back on track. I think that Caglione call-up is going to be a move that steers them in the right direction. But also Cole Reagan, somebody that huge expectations for this season. I thought he was going to compete for a Cy Young in the American League. That hasn't happened. His ERA is above 5. He's got to get going too if Kansas City wants to no longer just kind of lurk. If they want to make some moves up the standings, he's got to be a guy that gets it going.
Yep, absolutely. I'm in agreement with you there, but a guy that always gets it going, a man that does such a tremendous job. Taking a look at this great game of baseball, that'd be you, Curtis. Always love having you aboard, and let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, we got a lot going on this week. Thursday, upcoming edition of Extra Innings. It'll be a good one between the Diamondbacks series and when the Mariners come home and play the Cleveland Guardians. So two very interesting opponents. So the Mariners will be taking on those two teams. We'll have a new episode on Thursday. SeattleSports.com is where you want to go. Also, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcasts. That is where you can find all that content. And Greg, really appreciate you having me on. At a Kid from Ken on Twitter and Instagram. And Greg, I always look forward to our conversations and can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely. Curtis, one of the best in the business, always lends such great insights. And every single time he joins me, we all get a little bit smarter. So a big thanks to Curtis for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. Always great to be joined by Curtis Rogers, who does such amazing work over at 710 Seattle Sports. Taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to Curtis for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81. We're going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Let's get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board. It is the Miami Marlins. They walk the plank on the road to face off against the Pittsburgh Pirates as Yuri Perez is going to be making his season debut for the Miami Marlins, and you've got Mr. Mike Burrows who's going to be on the bump for the Pirates. Right now I'm seeing an opener at FanDuel with the Marlins at even money, minus 118 on Pittsburgh. 8.5 is the total. Over is even money, and the under is minus 120. I'm willing to dive in on the Miami Marlins at a minus 128. I very rarely decide to fire in on these guys coming off a major surgery, coming off of the injured list, but I'm going to be willing to do so with Perez because he's made 8 minor league rehab starts and he's looked really good. He's been able to give you about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and when he was at the big league level during the 2023 campaign, this guy was great. 3.15 ERA, still young. I think that he's only 22 years old still, so I mean, it's not like this is some sort of an older guy or anything like that, so I think that he's going to be able to go out there and he's going to be able to shove, and for Mike Burrows, he's posting up a little bit north of a 5 ERA. Now, in his last start, was able to come into his own. He looked much, much better. As first 2 starts, he was posting up an ERA well north of an 8, and things were very shaky for him, and he's another guy that was solid at the AAA level. At the AAA level, at the Independence League level, he was at a 2.51 ERA coming off a 5 1/3 inning scoreless against the Houston Astros, and I do think that things are going to be trending northward for him, and for the Pittsburgh Pirates, let's just call it what it is. This is a lineup that is producing nothing whatsoever at home. They are currently averaging 3.2 runs per game. That is dead last in the National League. You do have Oneil Cruz, who's been able to give you 12 home runs, and he's playing the team with about a 350 or so on base, but you just don't have a lot of guys outside of him that are able to give you a lot of power. As right now you've got 3 guys on the roster with north of 5 home runs. Andrew McCutchen has been able to give you 5 bombs. He's giving you nearly a 360 on base, and then Brian Reynolds has been able to give you 7 home runs. He's not hitting for a lot of average though, and then you got these guys like Alex Canario, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, Tommy Pham. These guys hitting a 220 or lower. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, to his credit, hitting about a 300. And for the Pirates, it's not even like this is some sort of a amazing bullpen or anything like that. David Benar has been a little bit better recently, but he's still rocking north of a 4 ERA. You've had Chase Joger be able to give you some good innings with about a 3.2 ERA, and Caleb Ferguson started to step up a little bit, but Joey Wentz has been a bit of a disaster for the team. Kyle Nicholas has not been good in this bullpen. They had to put Colin Holderman on the injured list. Whenever Tanner Rainey's been out there, he has been absolutely terrible. And on the flip side, you do have a Miami Marlins bullpen that they had to utilize quite a few guys yesterday, but I do think that there's a little bit of something to be had for this bullpen with Anthony Bender being able to give you a sub 225 ERA. And I do think that, again, Perez is probably going to be able to give you a pretty rock solid start. You've had some of these guys be able to improve. Ronnie Enriquez only threw 13 pitches yesterday. He could be a long guy that's able to give you a sub 3 ERA for Miami. It's not like this has been a great offense either. You've got AC Sanchez, who's giving you a 350 on base along Xavier Edwards. These two guys at the top do a nice job moving the line. Dane Myers hasn't been quite himself since coming off the injured list, but he's hitting a 300. Really, other than Kyle Stowers, you don't have a lot of power with this team. He's been able to give you 350 on base, 10 home runs, and Augustin Ramirez, to his credit, he's up to 8+ home runs. He's been able to move the line a little bit as well, and you do have guys that are starting to be able to get on base for this team, but not necessarily a ton of power, so I think that this is a low-scoring game. At semi-total 7.6, I like the under. I do like the Marlins at anything of a minus 125 or better on the money line. 903, 904 on the betting board. The Chicago Cubs, they're facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies. As for the Philadelphia Phillies, it should be Zach Wheelan and Dylan Wheeler going up against Matthew Boyd. Right now, a lot of places have this off the board, but I'm seeing an initial opener at FanDuel with the Phillies at a minus 152, plus 128, that number on the Cubs. The total is 7.5, over is minus 120, and the under is even. And if we do get this number, I'd be looking at the Phillies. I'd be willing to take a plus 120 or better with regards to run line. Right now, that run line price is a plus 136. I certainly would be willing to fire in there. As long as we get Zach Wheeler, I think that he's going to be rock solid. And the reason why there's a little bit of mystery is that he was on the paternity list, so congratulations to him on being a father. His last start came on May 29th, so he pretty much had one start skipped, and he did look rough in that start against the Atlanta Braves. He did give up 6 runs, but overall this guy has been great. 296 ERA, 292 fielding independent, and just been a case where the Atlanta Braves have had his number over the last few years. He's been dominant against everyone not named the Atlanta Braves thus far this season, so I think that he's going to round right back into form. And Matthew Boyd has been very solid here for the Cubs as well. For Boyd, he's right now doing a good job of being able to give you some solid swings and misses. It's not like he's at peak form, but 9.2 strikeouts at 2.1 walks per 9 innings, 301 ERA, 346 fielding independent. He's come in, given up 300 runs or fewer in 5 out of his last 6 starts, and all of a sudden the Cubs bullpen has looked a little bit better. Daniel Palencia, along Drew Pomeranz, Brad Keller, these have been some unheralded guys that have been able to give you a sub 235 ERA. You've had Ryan Presley be a bit of a disaster, though he's starting to round into a little bit of better form, and I do think that moving forward you are going to be able to get a little bit more production out of some of these other ancillary pieces in the bullpen. With Porter Hodge being on the injured list, it's lent itself to some opportunities for some of these other guys like Caleb Theobar, and for the Cubs, they're currently number 1 in the National League in terms of runs per game. You've got a quartet of different guys, plus Michael Busch, with now 10 home runs plus this season. I don't know what comes after quartet. Quintet? We'll go with that, but that's it. Michael Busch has 10 home runs. He's been able to give you a 375 on base. You've got Kyle Tucker, 390 on base, 12 home runs. Dansby Swanson, not really hitting for a ton of average, but 11 bombs. And then Seiya Suzuki, Pete Crow Armstrong, between the two of them, 33 home runs. So that has been supreme. And then Carson Kelly, 9 home runs and 130 at bats, 370 on base. You've got Nico Horner moving the line, hitting about a 285. On the flip side, you do have a Philadelphia Phillies team, though, that I do think that they're going to round into form a little bit more with their power. Bryce Harper has been out of the lineup for about the last week and a half. He saw a few appearances against the Toronto Blue Jays, but he took that beanball off the elbow, so something that you want to note there, because he's only one of 2 guys with north of 7 home runs as far this season. Kyle Schwarber being the other one. 250 average, but a 380 on base, 20 bombs. He's been able to do a nice job there. But Trey Turner hitting for 300 with his 7 home runs has been solid. And you've got plenty of guys that are moving the line, like you've had Alec Bowman for a 270, Nick Castellanos is hitting at 280. Even at the bottom of the fold, Mondo Sosa has been able to do 275. But one thing that you do fear with this Philadelphia Phillies team is the bullpen, because they're without their top closer and Jose Alvarado, because he decided to take weight loss supplements. To the credit of Ryan Kirkring, he did have to throw yesterday. He's been able to give you about a 285 average, but outside that, nobody has a sub 340 ERA, as you've had Tanner Banks be a little bit shaky with about a 386. Now, he and Matt Strahm both give you north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, and Strahm has a 342 ERA, but I mean, it's been mix and match, or bringing in guys like Seth Johnson, Brett DeGeis for some tryouts. Carlos Hernandez has given you a 6 ERA. Jordan Romano has been rough, but I just have a belief that Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler, he's going to be wheeling, he's going to be dealing. Now, I did set a higher total in this game because I do think that for the Cubs, they're not going to be denied here, and for Wheeler, he is coming off the paternity list, so I do think that he's going to be a little bit less sharp than normal. I did set my total at 8.6, so if we are indeed getting that 7.5, I am very much going to be in on the over in this spot, and with the Philadelphia Phillies, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the run line at a plus 120 or greater. 905, 906 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves are on the road facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers. It is going to be one Mr. Aaron Savali on the bump for the Brewers, and you've got Chris Sale on the bump for the Braves. Braves are minus 190 on the initial opener, minus 111 on that run line. Meanwhile, the Brewers, you're finding them at a plus 160, and you're able to find their run line at a minus 108. The total on this game is 7.5. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, I did set their money line at a plus 177, but I was willing to go up to a minus 116 with regards to this Braves run line. So I'm going to be looking at the run line. Couldn't quite get there with the minus 190 money line, but for Chris Sale, he's really starting to round into form. He had a few rough starts to begin the season, but you could tell that the strikeout numbers were still there. You could tell that he was still doing a solid job of being able to keep the ball in the yard. Not quite to the same extent of last year where he was giving up a half home run per 9 innings, but still less than a home run per 9 innings. 11.7 strikeouts per 9 innings is actually a little bit up from last year. 293 ERA, 292 fielding dependent. Haven't allowed 3 total runs over the course of his last 4 starts and 5 total earned runs over the course of his last 5. So he's really starting to round into form. And on the flip side, you've got a guy in Savali in his last start/bulk appearance, he was able to look relatively solid for the Milwaukee Brewers, but I do have my question marks with him. It always feels like you just never know what you're going to be able to get out of him. Right now, a 5.19 ERA. He's been getting about 7.5 to 8 strikeouts per 9 innings thus far this season, and he has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 3 appearances, but and those were all between 4 and 5.3 innings, so it's not like he's giving you supreme length right now, and he is backed up by a Brewers bullpen that is currently in the bottom 10 in the big leagues with regards to their ERA. For this Milwaukee Brewers bullpen, Elvis Figueroa along with Joe Payams were such big parts of it last season, and they have been nowhere to be found this season because they have been awful and they have been injured. That has been not so tremendous. Now, you've been able to have Trevor McGill give you a sub 250 ERA. Abner Uribe has been able to be a really good guy in this bullpen as well, and having Aaron Ashby come out of the bullpen yesterday helps them out. For the Brewers, they're doing a solid job of moving the line, but they don't necessarily have a ton of power outside of Christian Yelich. Yelich has been able to give you 13 home runs this season. He's up to about a 320 on base. They do a good job of being able to play station to station baseball, though. Yelich, Sal Frelick, Jackson Chourio, Bryce Terang, all with at least 10 stolen bases. And then you've got William Contreras, Frelick, Bryce Terang, along with Jake Bauers, all between about a 340 to a 360 on base. You need a bit more out of Caleb Durbin. I know that he had a game-winning home run a few days ago, but I think a 215, and then you've got some of these just other middle infielders not giving you too much. Oh, Reese Hoskins, 360 on base. Meanwhile, you've got a Atlanta Braves team that it does feel like they're starting to come into their own with regards to their offense. You've got Ronald Acuna Jr. fresh off the injured list, being able for a 300. He's been able to supply this team with 4 home runs in a small sample size. You've been able to get 12 home runs out of Matt Olson. He's up to about a 340 on base, and Marcell Ozuna continues to give you that 400 on base. Sean Murphy has been able to give you quite a few home runs with 9 home runs in less than 150 at bats, but he's currently hitting just a 215. And again, Ozzie Albies along with Michael Harris, you just need a little bit more out of these guys. For the Atlanta Braves, it certainly has been a suspect bullpen thus far this season. I think it's the best way of putting it. Desmond Hernandez being on the injured list is rough, and Rossio Iglesias, north of a 5 ERA, has been awful, though. Pierce Johnson, the only pair of guys that will be able to give you a sub 390 ERA. Pierce Johnson is really starting to act up. You've had Daniel de los Santos actually be relatively solid in this bullpen, sub 3 ERA, but you've got Craig Kimbrell employed, and that's not a place where you want to be. But I think that Chris Sale going to be able to go out there, dominate this one. I did set my total at 7.9. I think that Savali is going to yield some runs, so I'm in on the over, and I'm in on the Braves run line. 907, 908 on the betting board. It is the San Diego Padres, and they're going to be playing us to the LA Dodgers. We do know that for the Dodgers, it is going to be Dustin May. It is currently old to be determined as I'm doing this for the San Diego Padres, so pretty much every place has this off the board. I was seeing before Nick Pivetta should be getting the start in this one, and if you do indeed get Nick Pivetta, I do have a handicap up, and you actually have an opener over at FanDuel right now with the Dodgers at a minus 120 -122, plus 104 on the Padres. It is your total over and under, both at -110. I set the Padres at a -114 if we do indeed get Nick Pivetta. So if we get Nick Pivetta, I'm going to be willing to ride with them on the money line. If you don't get Nick Pivetta, it's probably not going to be anyone better, and I probably would be abandoning ship there. But I mean, for Pivetta, when he's been out there in San Diego, this guy's been absolutely supreme, as the biggest thing that was hurting him when he was in Boston was giving up those home runs when he was out there at Fenway. .69 home ERA for Pivetta, with 2 home runs in 37 and a third innings, 5 bombs in 31 innings, and a .494 ERA away from him. So Petco is clearly the ballpark for him, and he's been able to get 10 strikeouts and 2.5 walks per 9 innings as far this season. Meanwhile, for Dustin May, it does appear as though the swing and miss stuff is starting to come back from after he was dealing with a lot of major surgery over the last few seasons. 9.2 strikeouts and 3.2 walks per 9 innings, 409 ERA, a little bit less than that, 402 fielding independent. He's given up 300 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, and now he's been able to give you 8+ punch-outs in 3 of his last 4 starts as well. So he's been able to hit those K-props for you. And for the LA Dodgers, this has been about a league average bullpen in terms of ERA this season. They did have to use up Jack Dreher in the game yesterday, but I mean, he's been able to supply you with a sub-3.2 ERA. Ben Casparis, I know he had a little bit of a rough go of it on Saturday, but he's been able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA as well. So these guys have been able to mix and match in the bullpen. Alex Vesey has given you about a 3 ERA, and now you've got Michael Kopech coming off the injured list. We saw him yesterday. Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates have been a little bit disastrous at a 4.25 ERA, but I think that there should be improvement there. And for the LA Dodgers, this team has been a Death Star lineup that's averaging north of 5 runs per game away from home. You've got Shohei Ohtani, north of 20 bombs, 390 on base. Freddie Freeman, Will Smith getting jiggy with it, north of a 400 on base. Mookie Betts has had a little bit of a slow start to the season, but he goes deep yesterday, and he paused 12+ home runs. He's hitting about a 290. Teoscar Hernandez has been able to give 10 home runs. Tommy Edman is able to go deep. Have a Michael Conforto problem. He's been an issue this season, but Pat said it's been pretty rock solid for this LA Dodgers lineup. Meanwhile, for the San Diego Padres, at about a league average team with regards to their lineup, but the bullpen has been solid. I recognize that they blew that game against the Brewers on Saturday, and Jason Adam not going to be able to go in this one. He went in back-to-back days. He's got a sub-2 ERA, but you've got Robert Suarez, who again, 17 pitches yesterday, sub-2 ERA out of him. Audrey Montahone has been a good long guy. He and Yuki Matsui are able to give you a sub-3.3 ERA. Jeremiah Estrada has been able to give you a sub-3 as well. And then for the Padres, it's just all about finding a little bit more power, as Manny Machado is starting to get there. 10th home run in the season yesterday. He's hitting for a 318. And then you've got Gavin Sheets, Fernando Tatis Jr., combined 24 home runs, both hitting between about a 250 to 260. Jake Cronenworth not hitting for a ton of average, but a 370 on base. You've had Luis Rise hitting for a 275. I think that should be going northward. And Jackson Merrill still in that neighborhood, about a 300 as well. So I do think that for the Padres, they get a nice start out of Nick Pivetta in this one. And I do think that you're going to be able to get a bit of run scoring here. I did set my total at 8.2. So if you do get this 8, I'm going to be looking at that total over. And I'd be willing to ride with the Padres on the money line up to a -113. 909, 910 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays hit the road. They're facing off against the Boston Red Sox. Brian Bayo is on the bump for the Sox, and the Boz, Shane Boz, is on the bump for the Rays. Draw on scheme is 9, over and under anywhere between -105 to a -115, -106 to -112 is that number on Boston, anywhere between -104/even money to -110, that number on the Tampa Bay Rays, and set the Red Sox at a -116. So on this very tight line, I'd be willing to ride with the Red Sox on the money line. Now, I do think that both of these pitchers are certainly going to be giving it up, as you take a look at Mr. Brian Bayo, and this guy has been doing for regression for quite a while. 391 ERA, 481 fielding independent, 6.5 strikeouts, and 4.7 walks per 9 innings. Keeping the ball in the yard, giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings. But the good news for him is that he is backed up by one of the best lineups in all of baseball in terms of being able to generate runs at the Boston Red Sox. A little bit over 5.2 runs per game at home. Even without Alex Bregman, they've actually been doing a good job with their offense when they have been at home and on the road. They were able to get going in that series against the New York Yankees. So you do love to see that. Weiler Abreu, along with Rafael Devers, have been able to give you 13+ home runs this season. For Devers, he's been able to give you 400 on base. So while he's not picking it up with the glove, he's certainly picking it up with the bat. You've got Carlos Narvaez, along with also Jarren Duran, I think about a 275. And then Rami Gonzalez has been a really nice find. He and Abraham Toro have both seen about like 70 to 80 at-bats apiece. They're both hitting above 3. Now, Trevor Story about as useful as a poopy-flavored lollipop, less than a 275 on base, 7 home runs. You just expect more, but Ceddanne Rafael has been a little bit better and been big because Christian Campbell has been starting to regress. And with the Boston Red Sox, this has actually been a rather presentable bullpen. Aroldis Chapman has been quite good this year. Now, you're just waiting for the air to go out of the balloon with Chapman, but he and Brandon Bernardino a sub-250 ERA. This Red Sox bullpen overall entered into Sunday Night Baseball 10th of the league in terms of a bullpen ERA at a 3.42, so they've been able to do a nice job there. You've been able to have some other guys be able to step up, like Garrett Woodlock is a multi-inning guy, give you sub-3.5 ERA. Liam Hendricks hits the injured list, but it's not like he was doing a great job anyway. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, we always know that this bullpen bullpen is going to be great. They are number 4 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. So many guys are able to mix and match with Manuel Rodriguez, Garrett Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks, Eric Orze, all give you a sub-3 ERA. All should be good to go in this one. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, offense has been going a little bit more. Now, they were a little bit more held down in the game on Sunday, but that said, this has been a team that's been able to get the line moving with Junior Caminero, Brandon Lau, both being able to give you 14-plus home runs this season. Jonathan Aranda has been able to give you a 400 on base. I feel like a little bit of the reason why this offense has been ascending just a skoge more is the fact that you do have back in the lineup Jake Magnum. He's been able to about a 280. He hasn't been himself since coming back off the injured list, but I mean, it's a big upgrade from likes of Taylor Walls, the entirety of the catcher spot with Danny Jansen, Ben Rofit, Kim Misner. These guys hitting at 220 or lower, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, I do think that they are going to be able to get to Mayo a little bit more, but for the Boz, man, it's been rough. He's given up 3+ runs in 6 out of his last 7 starts. I like this kid, but man, you're giving up 1.8 home runs and 3.2 walks per 9 innings, less than savory there, and I do think that the Red Sox get to him for a pretty big number, so I might tell a 9.7. I like the over, and I do like the Red Sox on the money line. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. It is the Athletics, and they are going to be on the road against the LA Angels. You say Kikuchi. I say that he's starting for the LA Angels, and again with the Athletics, they make it impossible to bet these games overnight. They refuse to announce their pitchers until the day of the game, so this is a game that's off the board. So we have to just give you my handicap, and we'll bet this one in the AM how it goes. I set the Angels at a -164 on the money line. I'd be willing to take a +121 or higher on the run line and need at least +165 to take a shot on the A's. I set my total 9.3, so 9 or less I'm looking at the over, 9.5 or higher, the under end. What a royal pain. I can't even do my overnight write-ups because the Athletics, they refuse to announce any of these starters. MLB needs to step in and do something about this, not just for bettors, but for people that actually want to attend the games, and they don't want to be asking, oh, Daddy, who's pitching today? Oh, this guy by the name of To Be Announced, I heard he's a little bit of a mystery. Good grief. Thank you, Athletics, for being completely useless. But that said, with regards to Jeffrey Springs, if we do indeed get him here, he's been not necessarily so great this far this season. And I mean, with all these pitchers out there in Sacramento, it makes no sense why they're not going to announce any of their starters because, I mean, they all stink. Now, Jeffrey Springs had an opener utilized for him in his last start. So that's one thing that you do want to be noting. So we should get him in some form of capacity, but he might not be the starting pitcher. He might have some schlub who's starting for him. But 5.51 home ERA for Springs, 3.86 road ERA, 7 home runs allowed in 32 and 2/3 innings at home, 4 bombs allowed in 35 innings away from home. Presentable pitcher away from home. In Sacramento, he's just a complete fade. So he's actually been much, much better when he's been away from home. So that helps you out quite a bit there. And then for Yusei Kikuchi, he's been having himself just a little bit of an issue with regards to command. Like the 3.23 ERA is nice, but a 4.52 fielding dependent, 8 strikeouts out, 5.2 walks per 9 innings. That at some point is going to nip him in the butt. 4+ walks given up in each of his last 4 starts. And he's given up 5 total runs. Like this guy is pulling off a Houdini act to be able to get out of these, but then he gives way to a bullpen that is currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues with regards to ERA. Like, you know that things are bad when you're looking at the corpse of Hunter Strickland to be able to hold down the fort for you. That's not necessarily so amazing. Reed Detmers is posting up north of 5 ERA. Brock and Roll Burke has been giving you a 5 ERA. You've got Kenley Jansen, injured closer, so not necessarily amazing there. And then for the LA Angels, what you do have for this team is a whole bunch of power. Is Taylor Ward has been able to give you 18 home runs this year. Problem is, he's giving you a 265 on base. Mike Trout, he's up to hitting now at about a 221 with a double-figure amount of bombs. Nolan Junal has actually moved line at about a 370 on base. Zach Neto has been able to hit about a 270. He's up to a double-figure amount of homers, but Jorge Soler got a little bit injured in that series against the Seattle Mariners, so that's a little bit rough there. And for the Athletics, you just don't have any sort of trustworthiness with this bullpen whatsoever. As Mason Miller now is north of 5 ERA. He's got much better stuff. He's going to be able to find it at some point, but man, this has not been great for him. And then you just take a look at some of these guys like Grant Holman, who's right now one of your best relief pieces for this team. He's been posting up a 4.22 ERA. The only guy on this roster that has seen more than 2 innings that has a sub 4.09 ERA, Hogan Harris at a 3.65. That is absolutely ghastly. Like, they're trotting out there these guys that you're trying to mix and match with, like a Noah Murdoch at some point this year at a 13 ERA. I think they had to send him back down to the minor leagues, but you just have nothing here. But for the Athletics, they've been able to do a solid job with their lineup. Tyler Soderstrom along Brent Rooker, a combined 27 home runs entering in the game yesterday. Jacob Wilson has been hitting darn near a 370 this year. He's starting to draw a few walks. Love to see that. Lawrence Butler has been able to do a solid job moving the line recently. He's out back to updating for about a 275. Luis Arias, he's been able to give you about a 340 on base for the injured Miguel Andujar, so that's been pretty rock solid as well. So do you think that you get a higher scoring game, 9 or less, looking at the over 9.5 or higher, the under with the Athletics need at least +165 to take take a shot on them. Plus 122 or higher. Looking at that Angels run line, 9-13, 9-14 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're on the road facing off against the Cleveland Guardians. Luis Ortiz is on the bump for the Guardians, and Wade Miley hopes to have a party out there in Cleveland. As for Wade Miley and company, you're going to be finding the Reds as a pretty sizable underdog at a plus 138 to a plus 145. Meanwhile, between minus 156 and minus 169, very nice. That number on Cleveland, 8.5 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And right now, in terms of a initial run line opener for the Cleveland Guardians, if you're looking to lay a run off, you're going to be getting that at a plus 126. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Reds if we can get a plus 148 or higher. With Wade Miley, he's a little bit washed, and I don't necessarily think that he's the world's greatest starter, but who is Luis Ortiz to be this big of a favorite, especially with the way that the Cleveland Guardians bullpen has been really going down the tubes. Like, they're in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. I mean, Clase has looked a little bit better recently, and Hunter Gaddis is giving you a sub-2 ERA. Kate Smith continuing to give you like 13-plus punch outs per 9 innings, sub-3.25 ERA there, but you've had these guys like a Jacob Junis, who has just not necessarily been great. Joey Cantillo is posting up a 4 ERA for Ortiz, 9.8 strikeouts and 4.6 walks per 9 innings, 4.02 ERA, more like a 381 fielding dependent. Just great 3 earned runs for fewer allowed in each out of his last 5 starts. And for Miley, this is not going to be a guy that's going to be getting a whole bunch of swings and misses. He never has been a swing and miss guy, certainly not at this point in his career. He actually made a long relief appearance a few days ago, and he did give up 4 runs over the course of 2 innings, so that's not necessarily so tremendous. And at his humble age of 38, being a guy that for his career has gotten 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but hasn't reached that threshold since the 2020 season, he's going to be looking to just be able to fill a few innings here. But I mean, it is a Cincinnati Reds bullpen that I'm not going to sit here and say that they're like amazing or anything like that, but I do think that they can get the job done. Graham Ashcraft has been acting up a little bit for this team. He's posting up north of 4 ERA, but Lyon Richardson is the guy that's able to give you multiple innings. He's been able to supply you with a sub-275 ERA. You've got someone like Taylor Rogers that's give you a sub-350 ERA. Tony Santillan has been solid as well. And for the Cincinnati Reds, this has been a lineup that has been solid on the road. I'm not going to call them amazing, but I mean, 4.6 runs per game. That's a top 10 mark in the big leagues. Ellie De La Cruz has given you 12 home runs. As we know, he's one of the best base stealers that you're going to find in all of baseball. You're going to need to get a little bit more out of some of these ancillary guys because you do have someone like a Matt McClain who's hitting below the Bedell sign of 200, but you got TJ Friedel along Kevin Lux, who will be able to give you north of 365 on base. Spencer Sierra's been miserable this year, 4 bombs with a 226 average and a sub 300 on base. Santiago Espinal has been all over the place, and having Austin Hayes just consistently injured for the team has been hurting them as well. But that said, you've been able to get a little bit more here in Tyler Stevenson ever since he's come off the injured list as well. And then on the flip side, you've got a Cleveland Guardians team that's very top heavy, and they're just not generating any offense at home. Like for the Cleveland Guardians right now, they are averaging about 3.6 runs per game at home. That is the 3rd lowest mark in all of baseball. It's mainly because you've got guys at the top that are great, like Jose Ramirez has been able to give you 12 plus home runs. He's been able to hit for well above a 390 on base. You got Stephen Kwan who's hitting above a 300 as well. Carlos Santana, 355 on base. But then you've got a whole bunch of guys that they just can't find a way to get on base. Brian Rocchio had to be sent down to the minor league level. Lane Thomas has been banged up all season long. Will Wilson, Austin Hedges, throw in there Nolan Jones, Bo Naylor, John Kenzie Noel, all these guys with a 216 average or lower, all with a sub 300 on base as well. Kyle Manzardo has 11 home runs, but again, he's hitting at 205. So I do think that that's a little bit of an issue. I think that the Guardians are a little bit too lofty with regards to this money line at a plus 148 or higher, which I think that we should get that when it's all said and done with the Cincinnati Reds. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that money line. I did sell my total at 8.8, so I had an 8.5. Also like the over 915, 916 on the card. The Toronto Blue Jays are on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals. Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for St. Louis, and Jose Barrios is on the bump for the Blue Jays. Blue Jays are between a minus 109 to a minus 115 favorite, and between minus 105 to a minus 101. It's that number on St. Louis. 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8, over is minus 120, the under is even. On the 8.5, under is minus 120, and the over is even. And for the Cardinals, I set them at a minus 136 on the money line. Jose Barrios has actually been a little bit better when he's been on the road rather than at home this season, but let's relive the lifetime splits of Jose Barrios. 356 home ERA for his career with 9.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, just under a home run allowed per 9 innings, 4.56 ERA on the road, just under 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and 8.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for Palante, not been great. 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 4.91 ERA, less than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3 walks per 9 innings as well. But gets a face-off against the Blue Jays lineup that is averaging 3.2 runs per game away from home this season. That is a bottom 5 mark they're going to find in all of baseball. And I mean, for the Blue Jays, man, it just has been a case where they have been pretty powerless. Dalton Varsho is currently tied for second on the team in home runs, and he's back on the injured list. He's missed north of 35 games this season. Like Vlad Guerrero Jr. still moving the line with a 380 on base, but he's stuck on 6 home runs. Bo Bichette, 270 average, between 7 and 8 home runs for him. Addison Barger is hitting at 260, but he's not giving you a lot of power. Andre Kirk is hitting at 300. He's been solid. And George Springer up to 10 home runs, 365 on base, but the power's just not there with this team. And for the Blue Jays, to their credit, the bullpen has been pretty rock solid. They've been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA, and they've been able to do a nice job of being a mix and match, especially considering the starting pitching situation has been a little bit testy for them. But they've had Brandon Little come up very big. He's been able to give the team a sub-2 ERA, so I've been absolutely loving what I've been seeing there. Additionally, you've been able to get some relatively good production out of Uriel Hernandez as a bit of a long guy. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Mason Flaherty had to come in the game yesterday, but he's been rock solid. Big issue that you do have for the team is that Yimi Garcia is currently on the injured list, one of your better relievers, as Chad Green has been a little bit up and down, but I do think that for the St. Louis Cardinals, even though they're a team without a ton of power as well, they're outside the top 20 with regards to home runs on a per bat basis, that they're going to be able to get things going, and their bullpen is right around about league average as well. They had to use up quite a few guys after Michael McGreevy was a little bit less than savory yesterday, but that said, Ryan Elsley, he's still, in my opinion, one of the better closers in the big leagues, about a 350 ERA, should be able to round in form, but you've got Jojo Romero, Phil Matone, Kyle Leahy, I'll give you a sub 320 ERA. Matson Vincent, had to use him yesterday. He's a little bit of a less than trustworthy guy, so that's actually not a bad thing. And for Brandon Donovan on the offensive side of things, he's hitting for about a 317, not necessarily giving you a ton of power, but 380 on base. Lars Newpower right now leads the way with 8 home runs, 350 on base, and then you've got a lot of guys between 6 and 7 home runs. Ivan Herrera, fresh off the injured list, hitting above a 300. Mason Wynn, Wilson Contreras, Nolan Arenado. I just need a bit more out of Arenado. 302 on base, but Wynn has been able to give you about a 350 on base as well. I do think that for the Cardinals, they do a nice job of getting into Barrios, and they find a way to get the job done. Did somebody tell it at 8.3? Personally, I would rather have the 8.5 under rather than the 8 over with the way that these offenses are performing. So looking at that under and looking at the Cardinals money line, and we're at things up on 917, 918 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks play with the Seattle Mariners. Emerson Hancock is on the bump for Seattle. Merrill Kelly is on the bump for Arizona. Arizona minus 158 to a minus 169 favorite, plus 138 to a plus 146 is at number on Seattle. 9.5 is the total. Under is minus 120. The over is even. Somebody tell 9.7. So I'm going to be willing to dive in on the over. Now for Emerson Hancock, if you look at the raw ERA and the raw numbers, he looks absolutely terrible, but take out the 2 outlier starts, as he had 2 starts where he just got completely lit up like a Christmas tree. First start of the season, doesn't even go an inning against the Detroit Tigers, gives up 5 or 6 runs, gave up 7 against the New York Yankees about a month or so ago. Other than that, in 8 out of his 10 starts, he's given up 300 runs or fewer. Now, I'm not saying he's been amazing. 6.8 strikeouts to 3 walks per 9 innings. He's given up home run and a half per 9 innings, 5.19 ERA compared to a 5.02 fielding dependent. But I think that he's better than what the raw numbers show. But you also do have a guy, Merrill Kelly, that has been at his best when he's been at home. And really, this is throughout the entirety of his career. 3.43 ERA overall this season, getting 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's given up just under a home run per 9 innings. And for his career, his ERA is about a 1.5 higher when he's on the road rather than at home. This year, it's actually been a little bit more, shall we say, fair. 303 home ERA, 379 ERA on the road. It's actually giving up a little bit more hard contact at home, but overall has been a pretty rock solid pitcher out there in Arizona. But he's also backed up by a bullpen that has not been great, to say the least, with AJ Puck currently being on the injured list. They don't have a lot of options with regards to Zach Fultzer's role. Justin Martinez has been able to give you out a 3.5 ERA, and then you do have a pair of guys that have been able to be relatively solid long guys. Jalen Beeks, Shelby Miller, both of these guys a sub 3.25 ERA. They're looking at Christian Montaz de Oca, who's been a little bit of a long guy at the minor league level that they're bringing up, so we'll see what he's able to bring to the table. But now they're trying to mix and match with the likes of Tommy Henry, Ryan Thompson and company with north of 4 ERA. But you do have a Diamondbacks team that's in the top 6 in the big leagues with regards to run creation, as you got Eugenio Suarez, along Corbin Carroll. 18 home runs apiece this season. Suarez not necessarily hitting for a ton of average, but up to a 310 on base. Corbin Carroll about a 340 on base, and then you got plenty of guys that are able to move the line. Pavin Smith has given you darn near 400 on base. You've had Geraldo Perdomo just below 400 on base. You've been able to have Ketel Marte come off the injured list, 12 home runs and 136 at bats, north of a 415 on base. Josh Naylor has been a little bit banged up, but he's hitting north of 280. And then on the flip side, got a Mariners team that has been very good on the road. They're a top 8 team with regards to their road run production. They give Cal Raleigh a day off yesterday, and he's got 26 home runs this season. He is on pace for 62 plus bombs. That is going to be very big for them. 380 on base. It was just a day of rest. He's not injured or anything like that, which is why he's out of the lineup yesterday. But you've got a pair of starting guys Nori Polanco along with Julio Rodriguez down home runs apiece, and as Polanco has regressed, Julio Rodriguez has been able to pick it up, so I do like to see that. Rowdy Tellez not give you any sort of average or on-base percentage, but he's given you 9 home runs thus far this season, and then you got Dylan Moore give you about 8 home runs as well. For Seattle, they do have the far better bullpen in this case, as you've had Matt Brash come off the injured list and has yet to give up a run, so he has been tremendous. Andres Munoz is nails with regards to the closer's role, a sub-2 ERA. Gabe Spire has been a good long guy / a good setup man as well, a sub-3 ERA. Carlos Vargas, more like a 3 ERA out of him. You've had some guys like Edward Bazardo act up for you a little bit. Colin Snyder is now on the injured list. He was less than trustworthy. Trent Thornton has had some issues, but overall, I do think that for the Diamondbacks, Merrill Kelly does a good job being able to get the job done, and for Emerson Hancock, his lack of swing and miss out there in Arizona, I think is going to be very costly. So this is a circumstance where with the Diamondbacks on the money line, I set them at a minus 159. If you're looking at that initial FanDuel opener on the run line, right now you're going to get a plus 118 with regards to that run line. If we could get closer to a plus 125, which I think we should when it's all said and done, we'll be looking at that run line of the Diamondbacks, and I'm going to be willing to take the 9.5 over, and that'll wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Big thanks once again to Curtis Rogers of 710 Seattle Sports for joining me in my segment, and I'm going to be coming at you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the baseball season, so I'll be back with you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.